Hey, welcome everybody to the 40 Finance channel. We're coming into 2023 here in about a week or so, and I thought it'd be fun to look back at the year and figure out what the best stocks and the worst stocks were based sheerly on their performance. So we're going to look at those lists, go through them, and try to figure out what are the odds that any of these would repeat their success. And then on the flip side, if we start to look at the worst performers, which ones have a chance to sort of bounce back next year? And maybe if you bought in, if today was the low, would you make some money next year? So that's what we're doing here today. I had a little cold over the break, so you'll just have to deal with the voice. But good to see you, Eminem. And let's hop in. So what I did here, Seeking Alpha is going to do all the work for us. And I just made a stock screener that has, based on market cap, right? So USA, large and mega caps. I'm a United States resident, so I just focus on those because I know most of the companies. And if you're interested in learning more about Seeking Alpha, I talk about it all the time. They are having a huge sale right now, $39 for 12 full months of the premium service. You can check that out in the description. But for this episode, we are going to take our list of 744 large and mega cap stocks, market cap between 10 billion and above, and we're going to go over here to performance. All right, and I've already sorted this, but you see that you have a couple different ways to do this. You can go 5-day, 1 month, depending on how you would set your list up in Seeking Alpha. It's really just up to you. For this one, though, I sorted by year-to-date performance, and you can see at the top of the list, out of the big stocks that are out there, we have Occidental Petroleum, then we have Texas Pacific Land Corporation, Antero Resources, Hess. These are all energy, by the way. Marathon Petroleum, probably the first surprising one, at least for me, First Solar, which is up almost 80% this year. Exxon, and we get into, I have to wait for this one to hover. Oh, Schlumberger, Halliburton. You get the concept. We know who the winners were this year. So in the mega cap names, it's pretty obvious. It's all energy. So let's dice this up a little bit. I'm going to go back. It's still sorted. We're just on a different view. And you see all the names that are on here. And no surprise, they are all in energy. And I think everybody sort of knew that. But if you were going to go, if the market closed today, all right, if it closed today and that was it for the year, Occidental would win as the top performer. Now, keep this in mind when you see lists like this. You would have had to conceivably invest on January 2nd or 3rd, whatever the first trading day of the year was, to technically replicate these results. Obviously, there's been situations inside of a year to date where a stock maybe it tanked in 2021, but then, in June it went up, it doubled. It would not necessarily be calculated in here depending on how those ebbs and flows went for the year. This is straight up year to date, so the clock starts on January 1 and it ends today. All right, so beyond the obvious with energy, let's take a look at some different sectors. And in order to do that, we need to add this sector and industry here. And we're going to skip energy. We'll skip materials only because it's not something that I know a ton about. But, just for fun, let's put it up here. Steel Dynamics. Whoops. Then we have to check the performance. Okay, it's still sorted by performance. So with Steel Dynamics, CF Industries, Reliance Steel, Corteva, Nucor, FMC, the Mosaic Corporate Company, those were the winners in materials. Again, it's just not a sector that I'm super familiar with, so I don't want to talk about it too much. Albemarle is one that I do recognize. That one was actually down 2.91%. Not a ton of winners in year to date in the materials sector. And if you go flip the script a little bit and you go to the worst, minus 46%, who was this? Ball Corporation and Celanese Corporation. Those were the ones that were down. Now, let's take a different sector, perhaps something I'm more comfortable with. Gonna skip industrials, consumer discretionary. All right, so this should be interesting because consumer discretionary obviously had a horrible year as a whole because discretionary is the extra purchases that people can make. Sniff, real quick, is asking, did you get in on the promo from Fidelity early this month? Sign up and deposit $50, and they give you $150. I'll have to check on that, Sniff. No, I do have an account at Fidelity, though, so I don't know if you have to be a new account holder, but that's interesting. I'll have to take a look at it. Anywho, let's flip. Well, here's the losers from consumer discretionary year to date. Lucid, Rivian, DoorDash, I assume that's DoorDash, yep, Tesla, VF Corporation, Expedia, and Amazon. So that's pretty interesting, actually, how big those names are. And then even further down, you're looking at Ford, GM, and Etsy. Remember, we're only talking about consumer discretionary here. All right, so those are a lot of notable names if you go back to 2020 or 2021 anyway. Let's see how they did on the reverse side, year-to-date performance. So the best you could have done in this sector, if you picked one stock and you wanted to beat the sector, the best you could have done is plus 26%, which is not bad at all, really. And that would have been for Genuine Parts Company. Okay, again, if you're just joining us, large and mega caps, only in consumer discretionary. We'll look at some of the others in a minute, but it would have been Genuine Parts Company, not one I'm familiar with. Las Vegas Sands, which is casino. I do believe that they were heavily shorted, if you will, during the pandemic because of the amount of debt that they were carrying, and then also because physical casinos suffered from a lack of traffic. O'Reilly Auto Parts is here, and I also see AutoZone. So big on the auto parts if you are doing consumer discretionary. Ulta Beauty always seems to be promising no matter what the environment is. So Ulta Beauty, and then Deckers Outdoor Corporation. So that's consumer discretionary. Let's switch to, go down here, we were on consumer discretionary. Consumer staples. Okay, this should have been a halfway decent sector, only because everybody was making the argument that in recession, which of course we were all nervous about, recession, high interest rates, everybody eats Campbell's soup, right? Or something like that, or the core staples are still going to do well. Well, if we look at it year-to-date performance, you know, if you would have picked Lamb Weston Holdings or Archer Daniels Midland, you would have been in that plus 40% range, assuming you got in on January 1st. Let me see if I recognize any of these. There's Campbell's Soup. So plus 31% on what I would say was maybe the most obvious idea that prices were going to go up, and so people would drink their Campbell's Soup, eat their Campbell's Soup. So that was plus 31% on the year. Any others? Hershey, kind of surprising. Candy, I guess you eat candy when there's a recession. J.M. Smucker, they're always involved when you're talking about recessions or, you know, getting back to basics type economies. ConAgra brands, Kraft Heinz. So I would say, roughly some of these are the Warren Buffett stuff, right? So it's Hershey, Smuckers, Kraft Heinz, what's this one? Kellogg Company. He loves these kinds of things. So he probably did particularly well this year. Coca-Cola is another one that's on there. The safe stocks. Now, on the flip side, the losers in consumer staples, we had Estee Lauder, so fragrance, cosmetics. I don't want to say this with certainty, but I believe that there was some either debt or bankruptcy concerns at Estee Lauder this year. Tyson Foods, that to me is a little surprising. Walgreens, so Walgreens down 26%, and I guess that surprises me a little bit, only because I would consider Walgreens almost like a discount shopping atmosphere, certainly compared to the major retailers at the mall. But for whatever reason, without being familiar with the everyday, Walgreens is down 26%. And Church & Dwight, Costco down 18.5%. And that might be a little surprising because it's done so well, but I'm going to go on a limb and say it's because it's done so well over the past 2 years, minus 18.5%. In fact, here over the past month, it's down another 13, or it's down 13%, so that looks like the big bite from them. John Spencer, picking stocks is hard. This is what we have learned in 2022. I agree 100%. It's kind of part of the reason I'm jumping on here to look at this stuff. And then Sniff says, I think makeup products are taking a hit because of Snapchat filters. That's, you know what? That is pretty insightful because you really, the way some of the stuff is on the phones, and I'm not the guy to ask, but you really can doctor up your photos. I feel kind of lucky that I'm not dating in this environment, that I've been married for a long time, I got kids, whatever, because I can't imagine how many people doctor up their pictures on the dating sites, and then you go to the restaurant or whatever you're doing, and it's like, holy cow, that's not what I thought it was going to be. And I'm sure it works both ways. I'm thinking of it for women, but I guarantee you women get catfish probably just as much too. Okay, next sector. Let's go down here a little bit to, how about healthcare? Healthcare is always hard because you got pharmaceuticals in there, and those things, you're a drug announcement away from having a huge year. But let's start with the losers because it's already sorted by that. And you got Align Technology, which is invisible braces. I'd have to dig deeper into the fundamentals. I can't believe how far Align Technology fell, to be honest with you. There may be an opportunity here. I'm not sure. But look at this 52-week range. I'm definitely going to have to dig in on that one because they have produced some amazing growth numbers, even pre-COVID. I guess the concern is now, though, as you head into a recession, how many people are going to pay for Invisalign or upgrade? I don't know what the argument is, but they've had a tough year, minus 70%. AVTR, Avantor, I'm not familiar with them, so I'll skip it. WST, if I can get this hover over. West Pharmaceuticals, no idea. Illumina, no idea. There's just a lot of these that, they're just pharmaceutical companies in a lot of cases, and I can't keep track of who's inventing the next drugs. That's why if you do ever want to invest in pharmaceutical companies, particularly the small ones, number one, this channel is not going to be the right one. But you want to go out and find services or websites that deal strictly in pharmaceuticals, because it's all about approvals and phase 1 trials and all this stuff. And there's a lot of snakes in that industry, but I wish I had a reference for you. I really don't, but you want to find somebody who knows all about drug approvals and how they get into these clinical trials. And you also need to know about like some of the FDA rules and regulations. That's the only way you can kind of predict this stuff, and it's almost impossible. But you certainly want to find an expert, somebody who only does pharmaceutical trades, right? Those are the kind of people that would help you in an industry like this. On the winner side, Cardinal Health, which is mostly health supplies. I think they do have some pharmaceuticals, but they do mostly medical supplies, hospital supplies, plus 55% on the year. Is this Merck? No. McKesson, up 54%. Merck is right below, plus 45. Merck is so big that beyond inventing new drugs, they have a stable of generic products as well as reoccurring patents that are sort of buried under their labels that other people sell products to use the patent. They make money that way. So Merck was probably a very good company to consider during a downtrend because they have so many revenue sources. Cigna, Sarepta Therapeutics. Let me get one more in here. Neurocrine Biosciences. And again, these are all large caps. I mean, these are all 10 billion plus. So even though I'm not familiar with some of these names, they're not penny stocks, but they certainly did a good job of running up for the year. And if you go back to, let's say, the last month, the stock market, from my perspective, has tanked. Well, not tanked, has been very weak in the last month. And some of these names have, at least held their own. Merck, for example, plus 46% for the year. And over the past 30 days, 4.72%. That's not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Hey, Remy's here. What's up? Any undervalued stocks to watch in the upcoming year? We're looking for them. We're looking for them right now. As far as individual stocks go, I'm picking up the pieces on QQQ, and I am still slowly buying a share here and there, particularly while this market is down. I just think the next 60 days now just feels very uncertain about which way things are going to go. But I am very, I don't want to say very bullish, but I'm reasonably bullish for 2023 at some point. Whether it's summer, is it going to take that long for the Fed to chill out a little bit? I don't know. But as soon as that stuff happens, we're going to see a spike. I mean, I think it's just obvious. What's hurting us today will help us tomorrow. And when you're dealing with the Fed, it's mildly predictable in the sense that they can't do it this way forever. So when they stop, that's going to be a boom to stocks. All right, so healthcare, done with that. And we should be getting to technologies here soon. I did not sort through this list on my own ahead of time, so I'm calling this off the cuff, so I don't know what we're going to see. Healthcare, financials. So this was supposed to be the year of the bank, right? If you go back to January, interest rates are rising. Pour all your money into financial institutions. Most of them pay a dividend. That was, I would say, the groupthink. If you were in January, February, March, maybe even longer. And it looks like from a winner standpoint, if you chose Bank of America Series B, or you chose First Horizon, potentially Erie Indemnity, or LPL Financial Holdings, just to name a couple, you would have been, plus 35% or above. All right? To be honest with you, most of those names and most of these ones that I'm looking at on the board are not the ones that if you told me I had to invest in financials, it seems unlikely that I would have picked any of these names. Okay? Now, what about the losers? Minus 68% for SVP Financial Group. Here's a big loser that I own. Rocket Companies, mortgages, minus 43%. And for the record, it seems unlikely that Rocket's going anywhere for probably 1.5 to 2 years, right? Till the housing market stabilizes. I don't think the demand for housing, in my opinion, is any less. The want for housing is still high, but nobody wants to buy something that they're going to go underwater on in the first day. So Rocket will have its day. I paid too much and bought too much early, and that's my fault. Live and learn. The company itself, I still think is a great company. But in the short term, it would be silly to recommend it at this point. Who else is on here in the losers? Blackstone, which is surprising, and Blackstone could be an undervalue pick, and the only reason I say that is part of their minus 42% is the negative media that they got on some of the, they had a real estate holding, huge fund, right? And they did not allow redemption. So they did not allow people to cash out of that holding, I believe in November or December. That created a firestorm. And of course, the media took it as Blackstone's going bankrupt, which is, don't quote me, but I don't think that's true at all. This is a huge, huge company. But if you're looking for something like Blackstone, you may get a discount on the negative press right now. You'd have to do your own research. Again, I want to be clear, I have not dug into this one, but I like those kinds of things when a little bit of bad media comes out and you get a discount. You can see over the past month, it's minus 15%. So, it may not be as bad as it looks. Maybe it deserves to be down, but I would say this minus 15% could be tied to the bad karma, if you will, of pausing redemptions. Capital One. See, these are some of the names that I do know. All right? I don't know TradeWeb. But when I look at this top list, or bottom list, there's at least a couple on here that I know. Now, some of these look like foreign entities, and that should be eliminated with my United States filter, but banks are weird, man. They got all kinds of shell companies and crap set up, so I don't want to say for sure which way they're going. Moody's Corporation. All right, so, and I saw some of the big dogs are down here. Bank of America, minus 27%. Let's try to scroll down a little bit. Citi. Is this Citi? Yep. Citi, minus 26. Schwab, but it's .pj, so I don't know which one that represents. JP Morgan, .pl. I'm not even going to try to make any assumptions there. All right, let's get out of financials. And that, we've got to wait for this to refresh here. All right, next up, the bloodbath. Information technology. And we'll start with backwards. Again, when we're talking about information technology, we're talking about United States large and mega caps only. You need to have a market cap of at least 10 billion to make it in here. So the very worst one of the big dogs looks like Unity Software, minus 80% on the year, minus 23% in the last month. Okta, see, I know all of these. Okta, minus 70%. Cloudflare, 66. Zscaler, Palantir, there's one I own, minus 65%. DocuSign, which is interesting on DocuSign, minus 64% for the year. They're actually up 15% over the past 30 days. Maybe they're making a comeback. I have no idea at this point. Zoom video, I think we know that. Here's another one I own. PayPal, minus 63%. Mongo database, minus 62. But look at this. They were down much bigger, plus 31% over the last 30 days. Square, which I do have some Square, it will for sure be a tax loss harvesting sale here soon. Minus 62%. I think my shares are at like 200. It's like 20 of them. So I'm all done with Square. I'm just sort of waiting to see here in these last couple days where stuff fiddles out before I go ahead and push the button. Datadog, Snowflake, all the populars, even AMD, CrowdStrike, yada yada. Probably the more interesting list is who won. Did anyone win in large cap information technology? First Solar did, and so did Enphase. So a tie to energy, but the solar stocks, I cannot believe the solar stocks are still being held up the way they are, which kudos to everybody who made money in there. But it boggles my mind. Not to say that they shouldn't have had a good year, but plus 80% seems like a lot for solar. Let me just go ahead and look. This is so curious that I have to take a look. So here is year to date on First Solar. Started the year $83. Now you're at $156. This is a fundamentals channel, so we would be silly not to look at our earnings and EPS. And if we take First Solar this year, EPS estimate, negative EPS, losing money, minus $1.65. Next year, 536. It puts the forward P at 29. It's a lot lower than I figured it would be. Let's look at our revenue. Price to sales, if they hit 2.62 billion, is 6.38. If you want to go into next year and they go up 31%, you got price to sales of about 5. So will they hit these numbers? Hard to tell, but I'm genuinely surprised how high the price on this one has gotten. You can see Seeking Alpha anyway gives it a valuation of a D+. Profitability of D+, revisions of D+. That actually brings up a good question here. If we look under earnings and we go to revisions, it gives you a trend. So upcoming fiscal year end, revisions over the past 3 months, EPS down is 7, EPS up though is 12. Very interesting stock. Hard to tell where that one's going to land. All right, and Enphase is right up with it, plus 60%. Very similar story there. Let's see what Enphase's valuation is. Last I checked, it was pretty high. If they get to 539 next year, you're talking about a forward PE of almost 55. And then price to sales, if they get to 3 billion next year, you're talking about 13x on price to sales. Now, outside of solar, Fair Isaac, FICO scores, probably doing really well in FICO scores right now because everybody needs to borrow money. They're in the information technology sector, plus 42%. Then we have Aspen Technology, I'm not familiar. Amdocs Limited, and IBM. How about IBM? Plus 6% for the year, plus the dividend. I assume that they're still doing that dividend. And VMware, which is probably buoyed by, there's some talk of merger and I think acquisition with that one. I don't know if it was officially approved. But across 97 large and mega cap information technology stocks, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 were positive. So you could have thrown a dart at 97 names, and you basically had a 1 out of 10 shot of getting something that was going to be a positive, right? And you take out our two solars, and your best pick would have been plus 42%. Pretty crazy stuff. All right. I think, and then there's real estate. There's utilities. I'm not going to get into utilities. It's just nothing that I really cover here. Let's go to communication services, the sort of quasi consumer technology. We got our performance year to date. Not a good year in communication services. You got AT&T plus 30%, plus the huge dividend. T-Mobile plus 20. Activision, which is almost entirely based on a merger and acquisition. Omicron Group. So you got four winners out of 45. Similar odds on the dart throw, 1 to 10. 1 out of 10. And then if we go to the biggest losers in large cap communication services, you have Snap, Roblox, Match Corporation, Meta, Warner Brothers, Zoom Info Technologies, Liberty Broadband, Netflix, Trade Desk, etc. So I'm looking, this is year to date, and I'm looking over the past month. Meta has bounced a little bit at 5% over the past 30 days. So has Zoom Info, and so has Netflix. And Netflix actually, boy, it would have been down pretty big, minus 51% so far year to date, but up 62% in the last 6 months. So that's pretty crazy. Imagine how bad this number would have been for Netflix. All right. Do you think Weber would be a good buy? Weber, I assume the grills. Take a look at it. I'm guessing that big, expensive grills, although I don't remember that Weber was overpriced like some of those other things that I've seen in Home Depot and whatnot, Traeger grills and whatnot. 1 year. Let's just take a look at what the ratings are. So it's got a hold by Seeking Alpha Quant. The people that write, opinion pieces on Seeking Alpha, you got 2 buys and 1 hold. I don't know how new that is. And Wall Street's got holds as well. If we go to our estimates, it's a tough one because they are in 2023. They definitely won't have a positive EPS this year, or they're not expected to. And on a sales for this fiscal year, minus 16%, possibly plus 7.41% next year. Price to sales super low, under 1. What could happen here from like a momentum standpoint, because their fiscal period ends in September, you could maybe pepper in some of this if you're really excited about buying it. And then just know that you'll want to save some money heading into the late summer when their fiscal period ends, because then everybody will be looking more towards September of 24. That'll be your forward PE numbers. Right now, and plus it being in winter, I feel like it's hard to get excited for positive news to come out about Weber. But on the same token, if you got patience, this could be the time. Let's see. Weber Bulls challenge Bears. This is funny. This is December 5th. Grillmaker Weber is targeted by its controlling shareholder, BDT Capital, and they issued a non-binding takeover bid at $6.25 a share. Okay, and I expect BDT will be willing to raise the current offer. So it looks like what you're waiting there. This sucks because they put in a bid, this BDT Capital put in a bid at $6.25. Until there's more news about that, as far as a new offer coming in or BDT upping their current offer, until you have that news, it's going to struggle to get much above $8.11. Now, that being said, what are the odds that somebody comes in and bids $9 a share? I have no idea. It seems in this environment, it's probably asking for a lot, but there's a lot at play. You have to do a lot of reading on Weber with those things. Just from this, how long have I looked at this? 3 minutes. It looks like there's plenty of reading to be done before you invest on that one. All right, guys. So that is the winners and losers on the large cap stocks. If I have time coming up, I may go deeper. Some of the more interesting ones. If I show this, let me go to my stock screener. So that was large and mega caps. I also have mid caps, and I also have small caps. So I can do the same thing for those. And you get some really interesting names in mid caps and small caps. The problem is their market cap is so small that plus 100% may not be as big as it sounds. I mean, it's as big as it sounds for the person who bought it, but there's huge fluctuations in small cap and mid caps, and I really need to dig through those lists and just throw out some ideas for fun as we head into 2023. All right, thanks everybody for joining. Don't forget to check out that Seeking Alpha special offer. My affiliate link is in the description, and hope everybody's staying warm. I'm in Cincinnati. We didn't get a blizzard in the sense of snow, but it was freezing cold like it is everywhere. And now we're finally starting to melt out a little bit, so it feels a lot better. 30 degrees feels like 70 degrees today, just to see some things melt. But hopefully you're staying warm too. We'll see you on the next video.